Hello, everyone. I have James, who is one of my Systems Academy students here with me today. And we're going to talk about his experience in the Systems Academy for the past, I guess, 9 months, James, right?
Yeah, since September. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And August, end of August, September, absolutely.
Yeah. I believe that what we have done with Systems Academy is pretty unique in the educational space for traders. I was looking for a program such as this one about 15 years ago, and I literally traveled to different countries and spoke with different experts to see if they offer something like this. And the closest things I found was Van Tarp's Super Trader program. And I signed up for that program and then decided that my path is quite different. So I opted to not continue the program and self-educate. But then years later, when Kirk and I, my business partner, were thinking about starting an investment company, I felt the need again to have a program that will teach traders how to think systematically and how to trade systematically. And I pulled all the resources that I had put together for myself and basically redid everything to make sure that it's a cohesive, consistent set of educational material so that people can go through it and it makes sense. And hopefully at the end of it, they have a good understanding of systematic trading. We have been getting pretty good results so far, even short of 1 year. And that is why I asked some of my students to, if they volunteer, to get together with me and discuss their experience so that we can hopefully share that experience with other people, because there is some curiosity out there and people are asking me questions. How are things going in the first year of Systems Academy? So thank you so much, James, for being here with me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Would you like to take a minute and introduce yourself, please?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, I started when the bulk of the students started last August. We had a few folks join late, but otherwise most of us had been in the program for about 9 months, and it's kind of astonishing to think that it's only been 9 months. It feels like significantly longer that we've been doing this work. But yeah, so my name is James Regan. I'm just turned 40. I'm from DC, the DC area, and currently live in New York. My profession and training was actually in English literature and in music, and so I started my careers as a jazz guitar player, and then from there worked in recording studios, and then got a master's in literature and writing, and taught at the collegiate level here in New York. And in my path to trading actually began when I found Bitcoin, and I briefly flirted with other things, but really became very intrigued with Bitcoin on a technical level, and that led me to try to understand the price, because I could understand why it was interesting and valuable to so many people, but then the price was something totally different. And then sitting down with charts and learning how and why price moves and supply and demand. I mean, all of that started in 2017 for me. And I went through tons of other systems before I came to Al Brooks, and then went through all of his material and actually stopped using his teaching and tried to use TPOs for a while, which was not a fruitful exercise, and eventually came back to Al, and I was doing research and heavy study, rereading all of his books again, going back through all of the video course material for the I don't know how many times. And Ali, at that point, you posted the announcement about Systems Academy on the Brooks trading course site, and it's like, oh my goodness, I've been looking for a systematic way to organize my thinking for, at that point, it was 5 years. And nothing, everyone who, told tales of these, systems that worked, they never did. And one of the things that I've come to appreciate, a lot more in having gone through 9 months of Systems Academy and designed 2 systems, and currently working on another, and written a lot of code to support that experience, is really that I've only anytime I ran into someone prior to this who said that they had something to teach me, had something that might have been working for them. And what I've realized is that everything is so particular to the psychology of the trader. One of the founding principles of the approach that each student in Systems Academy takes is really that this has to reflect your beliefs about the market. And if it doesn't, you're never going to be able to trade it. And I designed a system I can't trade, actually, because I can support it, with the statistics support it, but I just don't. It doesn't work for me to trade it live. So I've proved that point of it to myself a couple of times over now.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger secrets in trading, that people try to hide their approach or their systems from everyone, not knowing that even if they're completely transparent with the rest of the world, nobody can trade them to systems as well as they can do it. Therefore, there are no secrets. You can just tell everyone what you're doing, and if they try to copy you, the results are going to be very different, because everybody brings their own psychology into it. So thank you for that. What was your experience over the past 9 months in Systems Academy?
The course material is comprehensive. So, spending the first 3 months more or less going through hours of course material every day, while doing really rudimentary code work early in my kind of coding journey. It helped a lot to validate some of the things that I was, some of the ideas that I wanted to kind of organize my work around. But I always felt very, everyone in the program is very interested in what everyone else thinks. And yeah, it actually reminded me of, some of the best educational experiences I've had elsewhere. I've spent a lot of time in classrooms, and the best educational environments are always those where your peers really want to know what you think and why.
Yeah, that's really important.
This was that, probably amplified, well beyond what people really genuinely care about in perhaps a literature classroom.
Yeah, so as you know, I interviewed personally everyone who got into Systems Academy last year. And one of the personality traits that I was looking for was curiosity. So that was one of the things that scored very high in the admission interviews last year. And look what we ended up having here. Everybody is genuinely curious. They're very interested in the work that they are doing themselves, and also, as you said, everything that everybody else is doing. So when somebody has a question, it's usually a question for the group rather than a personal question. And that has, I think, contributed to a lot of additional, progress with the work that everybody is doing. At least that's my impression as a teacher.
Yeah, and to that point, I think just the other day, someone was asking about the ways that people think about excess and how to measure excess. And there were 3 different methods for doing it that were proposed by different people who were effectively using each of those. It was really great to see that kind of engagement. I had one of them, and it was really cool for me to see in code the way that 2 other people were thinking about it as well.
Basically, every training program is scored in several different domains, and they are quality, usefulness, the amount of support that you get through that program, and that will eventually lead to the value proposition for the program. How would you think about, or how would you score Systems Academy against those metrics?
I mean, if it's a score of 1 to 10, I mean, I would say that it's, off the charts. I mean, there's no comparison. I mean,
And why is that?
well, so I think that, and thinking about even those other classrooms where I've felt the students were very engaged and curious, the environment surrounding it was never as healthy as this. The instructors were distrustful or kind of dismissive, or the administration was, undermining the instructors, or there was some sort of compromising factor. Whereas here, I mean, everything is transparent. I mean, the amount of time that you give the program is astonishing. And so, I mean, everyone has more, more material, more tools, and more feedback on their work than they're going to get anywhere else. I mean, I don't know of anything that can come close to this value proposition.
Okay, great, thanks. Can you talk about the projects that you worked on or you have worked on so far since you began the training?
Sure. So I did, well, two systems are really the same system with slight variation, and I validated both of them. So I did basically everything that I studied for the first 6 months were second leg systems. So identifying strong first legs according to certain parameters. One is a setup called the I1R, the initial 1R risk setup, and then another one was micro channels, and they end up overlapping in a lot of places, some not, but they're both methods for identifying second legs, tradable second legs, which are typically the highest they are the highest probability setup and price action. So I developed both of those systems and traded both of them. And I should have said at the top that I initially enrolled, I mean, I did enroll in order to develop systems for a company that I work for, which is a Bitcoin, it's a company in the Bitcoin industry, which issues assets on a second layer of Bitcoin. So we issue digital securities, and we do some proprietary trading, but we also do market making for some of the assets that we issue. So after doing the two second leg systems, the micro channels and micro channel setup and I1R setups, I did a mean reversion system based on Z bars, which I found untradeable for me. I could trade a mean reversion system based on context and the I1R and microchannels, but I was not able to trade the Z-bar system. Z-bars being statistically significant large bars that were high probability to get either continuation or pullback. Those are the three systems that I developed, and I'm currently working on basically four different setups of the same variety of breakout and follow through, using all of the same parameters as before, but relying much more on context, and so removing a lot of the kind of code scaffolding and just pulling some stuff off the chart.
So let me point out for everyone who haven't worked with you or don't know your background, one of the things that really impressed me with James is his ability to think like an engineer and think correctly about concepts, and then to program them. You use TradingView, right, for your programming?
Yes.
PineScript. So James programs in PineScript, and I mostly program in TradeStation's easy language. And as a programmer, I really understand the background requirement that somebody has to be able to write, meaningful, actionable code for trading, something that works. And James's background is not engineering, as he said, but I think he's a very strong thinker when it comes to designing and programming for trading. And that has always been very interesting to me regarding your work, and very impressive too. So well done with that. What do you think was the impact of SA2 Systems Academy 2 on your trading? Without regard to systems, because obviously you are developing systems, you have done a few of them so far. But if you don't think about the systems and just think about James as a trader today compared to last year, how would you rate it or compare it, or what was the effect?
Much more. I mean, so if I remove the system component, I can't remember now where at what point they came up, but going through the course in Miracles at the same time I was doing this work helped me become calm when I'm trading. Right. And just confident that even if I make a mistake, I can almost always get out of it.
Yep.
And so where before, even if I had a plan, a mistake would derail the plan, and I would start doing stupid things. Yeah, like Al says, just don't do stupid things. I'm like, well, why do I keep doing stupid things?
I still do that.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
But I think and I'm not, and obviously it's probably a combination of everything, but I think the coding and spending time trying to explain to myself and to the computer why something is important really helped me internalize it, such that I wrote a trend / a trading range indicator as like one of the first things that I tried to do, and it was terrible. I was hundreds and hundreds of lines of code, and I rewrote it 2 weeks ago, and it's 80 lines of code, and it is incredibly effective.
Yeah,
and it works on all time frames. So it's
basically that's the effect of understanding the markets at a deep level that reflects itself into very compact yet accurate program or code.
Well, and I think that the other thing is that I've really probably internalized the I don't remember what principle it is. I mean, the 80-20 principle, but it has another name.
80% rule?
Yeah, not the 80% rule, but just the 80-20 principle that you're going to get 80% of the benefit from 20% of the work, and so, or 20% of the whatever. So like in this case, it's if there are 10 attributes that define something, only 2 of them are going to contribute to 80% of the success of that thing. And so
Correct.
the finding those 2, or finding the 2 that are most meaningful, and really trying to strip away a lot of the distractions and the things that aren't going to be as significant has helped tremendously in kind of streamlining my thinking as well.
Correct. And that's also a reflection of how we encourage people to think about trading based on a first principles approach. And that is just a reflection of first principles, because you usually do not need many different principles to work together to create a system or a correct approach to trading. Basically, very few things does most of the work. And therefore, it's fair to say that 20% of everything does 80% of the work.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it when you asked about education, and a lot of my time was actually in philosophy, and really first principles thinking. And so I think that
Correct.
that might be one of the things that actually contributed most to being able to sit down and kind of think through the code,
Right.
just
Yep.
deal with modules and,
Hmm.
organize, from, axiom to, conclusions.
Shun away from complexity as much as possible. Yeah. So that is actually very in line with my personal experience. Years ago, when I was trying to write my first piece of code for trading, it was a complete impossibility. Like, I would work on it for days and days and days, and I would look at the work product. It was just like, all right, not only we didn't progress at all, it's actually a step back. Until finally, when things start to click, and that took quite a long time. Now I can write code that is, just as you said, very precise and very compact. And that's actually why I wrote those two indicators as examples for everyone who's interested in using them in their systems development, so that they have a template for how to code and how to develop a signal, basically, which is the core of a trading system. But that's
I
great.
learned a ton from reading all of those indicators and just really understanding how they operate. That was priceless for my learning. And
Thank you.
I mean, the first thing that I wrote, other than that really junk trend trading range indicator, was an attempt to do a reversal indicator. And it wasn't until we were talking about bar direction one day, and you said, the code doesn't look more than one bar back, even in the most sophisticated expression of the algorithm that you've written.
Yeah.
It's really dealing with it one bar at a time, the way a price action trader would see it. And I was like, oh my goodness, well, that's why mine doesn't work at all. It's because it's looking 6 bars back at different points. Like, it's just crazy. And so that just reorganized everything.
Yeah, that's great. So can I ask you, how do you see your future as a part-time or full-time trader? Is becoming full-time in the works for you, or you're going to be part-time? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it really depends on, I'm certainly going to be part-time for a while. So at my job, at my full-time job, I've designed systems which we are going to be deploying across different markets, which we trade on Bitcoin currently.
Mm-hmm.
I will be training people who we hire to trade those systems because they are pretty, like, one of the reasons why I actually chose those systems is because they were very straightforward. They're relatively easy to explain.
Mm-hmm.
So my trading will probably be at my job kind of as a fund manager. I mean, it's not actually a fund, but in that kind of a role for a while.
Basically, like a proprietary trading company who's managing its own capital, and you would be overseeing that, basically.
Yeah, and the only thing that would change that for now is if the product development side, which I love. Like, I love getting to talk with Bitcoin developers and develop products that actually have market fit and that people use. So I get to spend time talking with core developers and building things. So I'm torn between thinking about leaving and trading for myself and being able to be engaged with the work. So I'll be trading at least part-time, if not full-time for them. So
that would be great. By the way, had I had that opportunity when I was working full-time as a network architect in a similar capacity as you are right now, I wouldn't have transitioned to trading that quickly, because that's a major exposure to the industry, and that experience is really, really valuable. So I think that's a very good decision. Let's say it was last year now, and you wanted to do this over again. What would you have done differently?
That's really hard. Because my first impulse is to say that I wouldn't have wasted so much time on like silly ideas in code. Because I mean, I waste many hundreds of hours. But I feel like that might be part of the necessary, process of realizing, what is a good and tangible approach and what is really spurious. And so I kind of feel like that was necessary, but maybe not. I probably could have spent more time doing or in forums and really understanding what I was trying to do, because from the outset, I knew that I wanted to code, or I knew that I wanted to develop a second leg system. I knew that I wanted to be scalping. I didn't want to. I don't like sitting in trades. However, I think I could have optimized the structure within which I pursued that.
Correct.
I spent a lot of time doing related things that I thought were helping, and I'm not sure they always were.
Well, I think to some extent that's necessary, because I've basically done the same thing too myself. And for a person who is writing programs for trading, some of it is necessary, because you have to try out different things. You have to have failures and successes both, until you know the correct sequence of algorithms. You know how a trading algorithm starts. What are the order of processing the information that the chart is giving you, has to be in that piece of code. Until that gets completely, settled down and sunken down fully, so that you completely understand it and probably wouldn't even think about it. The next piece of code that you start to write, there's a process to writing it, and it doesn't change all that much. But some of those back and forth, I think, is necessary to get to the point that things are getting stabilized and they become basically second nature. So that when you start writing a new program, the general logic flow of the program is already known, and that's based on experience, I think. Would you like to show some of your work for people who are watching this?
I can. So this is the code for the I1R setups, and it is. So there are a few things that it's looking at. So the I1R setup, the way, and this is actually one of the great frustrations that I ran into early on, is that TradingView Pine does not let you color previous bars. You can only color bars in real time, which means that for a setup which has an undefined number of bars in the setup, you don't know how many bars to look back in order to color all of them when you get your signal. So this code just shows the signal bar, which is here.
Right.
So I'm sorry, this is the confirmation bar, where the setup confirms. This is the signal bar, which generates the potential signal. And
Correct.
then this is where the I1R confirmed, and this is the last bar of the I1R. So there are a few other things that the code does. It highlights the bars that are, and so these are the two variables, most important variables that I found when doing the study, is that it needs to, the I1R needs to either be breaking out from the EMA or breaking out from a previous swing point. And either of those make it significantly higher probability to generate a second leg.
Right.
So this is breaking out from the EMA. It gets a very small second leg, but it's on the open, so it's a higher probability to be a cell vacuum test on the open than a leg that gets a first leg that gets a equal second leg. But then this is another opposing I1R, so 8, 9, and 10. And this one is not breaking out from a previous swing, and it's not breaking out from the EMA because it does not open below. So that's the criteria, is that the signal bar needs to open below and then cross. So this does not consider it a breakout.
Correct.
And then here, this one is a breakout because it is breaking out above the previous swing point.
So it basically processes two things: the I1R concept that we teach in Systems Academy, and also it combines it with breakouts.
Yes. And then in order to get all the backtesting data to do the study, I added these. So it allows me to automatically pull specific data for each of the setups and export all of that data into a CSV. So I'll get, and these were the different data points that I studied in order to determine what would be the highest impact secondary data points that I could incorporate into the setup.
Sure. Yep. What are those?
Are also highlighting the micro channels. So if I turn that off, those little red triangles.
I was going to ask, what are those?
Those are the micro channels.
Okay.
So I was able to use a lot of the same code to do a micro channel study as well. But when I mentioned that I was looking at breakouts above previous swing points, that required me to write a leg counting mechanism, leg counting code. And that was the biggest project I actually worked on. This ended up being about 1,700 lines of code to count legs. It was endlessly frustrating and an incredible amount of time. But it does count. It counts internal legs. So now this is a lower high, so it doesn't count it, and this still becomes a leg 2, rather than this becoming 1, 2, 3 here. So there's a lot of nuances that it accounts for. This is a reset here, which doesn't get continuation. So there's a lot that that one criteria for the I1R setup actually required me to code before I could collect the proper data for it.
Yeah, legs are very important to understand probabilities and associate correct probabilities to what we see on the chart. The important thing with respect to that leg counter is that it has to work in real time. So it's very different if you have a code that can process the chart and then label the legs for you at the end of the day, versus a leg counter that can do it in real time. Because in real time, meanings of things can change with new bars as the new bars are forming. So
that was the big challenge, actually, is that all of the other leg counting things that I saw were based on pivot points, which need 3 to 5 bars to confirm. And so my code is based on spike breaks, and so it confirms a leg as soon as you get a higher high or a lower low, depending on the direction of your previous bars. So it's very sensitive to price action.
So do you think that people who say it's useless to write code for price action, what do you have to say to them? Because this is purely price action. Everything that we saw on your charts, in the professional world, they categorize it as pattern recognition. So what do you think about it now?
I mean, I think that you have to do a lot of kind of foundational work to, like, you can't just go in and throw an oscillator or something on there and hope for hope for it to tell you important things about what the chart is doing or what's happening on the chart. But for example, this is the trend trading range indicator that I just wrote, and it is, it's the synthesis of so basically it's looking at breakouts, but it's only these last, so there's different modules for day time frame and intraday, but line 529 to line 581. Yeah, it's hardly anything. And yet it's identifying, your potential trend bar, your follow through trend bar, and now your, odds for being in a trading range, your first trend bar, which gets follow through, and now your first trading range here is a bullish trading range, as this was a bearish trading range. Context could be argued otherwise. But one of the things that I found is that, I'm giving it a little bit of leeway to identify the trend, and that it needs more than one bar to confirm that the previous bar was really a trend bar and not basically a fade. So here, this is a large bull bar that was a breakout and did not get follow through. So it was actually a potential transition bar, and the indicator colors it blue as but it's still seeing it as a trend bar. And if this had been a strong close above here, then it would have been a candidate for a trading range bar follow through. And then we didn't get it, and this ended up being a trading range, as we see here, for all of the middle of the session, which is not surprising.
Yeah.
In a larger trading range day. But as soon as you get this breakout and follow through here, then your first pullback is a buy for this move up, and then your transition to only bear trend and trading range is basically selling pullbacks. And so it's 60 lines of code that really have a significant effect on the way that you take signals.
Correct.
It's based entirely upon the first principle of breakouts, which, as you've taught, is the most important thing to understand. And my thinking in trying to come back to first principles for this was that if the breakout is the most important thing, how can we determine whether a bar is a trend or a trading range bar based on the principle of that breakout? And this is what I settled on. So
that's great. So how do you read this lower chart indicator? Is it anything below the midline is a trading range, anything above is a trend? How do you read it?
Yeah. So below is trading range, above is trend, and then color just determines the direction of the trend. And
okay.
The color of the any colored trading range bar is either a bull or a bear trading range bar. And if it's just gray, it's just 100% trading range bar. And those bull or bear trading range bars can actually be great limit order entries, because there are places where bears or bulls failed. And so those actually generates really good signals based on context as well.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. This is wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been relieving to finally get something from that has been working.
That's great. All right, so what would you say to somebody who is thinking about coming to Systems Academy if we do it in the new year? Because I'm not sure really that we will be doing it, but if you consider to open Systems Academy again for 2023, what would you say to people who are thinking about it?
I would say if you have the time and you know that you will do the work, there's no place that you will get more value for that time. And I just turned 40, and I'm thinking a lot about the value of time as my kids get older, and I would not want to spend time learning trading anywhere else, because I don't think that there is anywhere that would have as much value.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me, actually. Any other points that you would like to share with us?
It's been incredible. I'm just really thankful that this is something you decided to put an incredible amount of your own time and effort into, and really putting together a product which is it's superlative, which then brings people in who are really committed and interested and, like you said, curious. And it's just it says a lot, the kind of thing that you've curated. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience with me and everybody else. Wish you all the best, and hopefully other people will find this discussion also interesting and informative.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I hope so. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.